Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the How to Film Weddings podcast. My name is John Bunn and I have a great episode for you today. I just interviewed Daniel Shackleford. He's based out of Athens, Georgia. He's doing luxury weddings and he has really skyrocketed his business. We talk a lot about like filling up your cup and doing things to get in the room with people so that you can elevate your brand. So whether you're interested in doing luxury weddings or not, we talk a lot about filling your cup, knowing what you want to do as a business owner and really leaning into that. We talk about how second shooting has really helped him to get in the room with different people and to get experience, to make relationships. We talk about all kinds of stuff. We walk through his story. It's a great it's just great to see him pushing past the $15,000, $16,000 starting rate for his wedding films. Just a cool dude, a great conversation. So without further ado, let's hop into this week's episode of the How to Film Weddings podcast. Well, welcome to the show. For those listening, I'm interviewing Daniel Shackleford today. So Daniel, why don't you say what's up, hello, however you'd like to say that. Kind of introduce yourself. Who are you? Where are you? Why are you? When are you and how are you? Any order.
All right, in that order. All right, what's up? Hey, hello. My name is Daniel Shackleford. I'm outside of Atlanta, Georgia. We're in Athens, which is about an hour northeast of Atlanta. And we have lived here in this area pretty much my whole life and started the business here, all that kind of a deal. Where am I? When am I? Man, when are we ever? I guess. I don't know. We are in the midst of a wedding season coming into December right now. I'm not sure when this will be put out, but we're coming off the tail end of a nice busy fall, a couple more weddings, a couple more events coming up this year. And it's been a great year and looking forward to next year too. And just going to acknowledge the weirdness of the camera that I'm recording on is there and John is here. I just can't not begin with that acknowledgement.
That's good for those watching on YouTube so they don't think that you're, not paying attention or something, I guess so. But so I wanted Daniel to be on the podcast. I had seen some of his work. I had met some friends that said Daniel had shot with him. He's in a networking group that I'm a part of for luxury filmmakers. And I think it's looking through your work, looking through your brand, looking through all the stuff that you have out there. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I would assume that you're aiming towards a more high-end type destination wedding film and doing lots of luxury, nice, beautiful events. And so I wanted to get you on just to kind of talk about you and your story, why you decided to go into luxury events, what's that journey looked like. So that's kind of what we're going to dive into today, and we'll see where it goes and see, where our little journey takes us on this next half hour or so. So you started your business, I think you said, when was that, 2016, 17 range?
Yeah, 2016. So previous life was in more of like a corporate setting, working in the finance world. That's what I studied in college and was working in that space for 5 or 6 years right out of school. And did that for 5 years or so, all the while my wife was already working in weddings. So she's a wedding photographer. And she started doing that while we were in school, and we got married right out of school. And she was able to just kind of keep growing that business. And I joined her. We ultimately just decided we wanted to give it a shot. Originally, no plans of kind of moving into that industry, but I knew I wanted to be in kind of more of like an entrepreneurial environment. And we thought it'd be fun to work together. We also took that year to travel. We lived full-time in a camper as we worked together that first 14 months. But ultimately just decided we wanted to give it a shot together. So I quit and I joined her in her photo business in 2016 and pretty quickly kind of set out with all the gear that I had at my disposal to start dabbling in video. So First wedding I shot was at the very end of 2016.
Gotcha. And
So it doesn't feel like that long ago, but kind of is.
you're getting there. You're getting old in the business. You're one of the veterans now, so that's a thing. So when looking through your site and just looking at your work and prep for this, I mean, it shows you've done weddings in Connecticut and Tennessee, Italy, Idaho, Oregon, Boca Raton. Like you've been all over the place shooting weddings. Your wife was already doing weddings. Was she already traveling? You started tagging along. What was kind of the story? How you really got into it? What were you charging to start with? And then what does that little bit of that looked like?
Yeah. When we first started, we were not doing a ton of destination work, at least on the photo side. Back in 2016, she had really established herself well here in the Southeast. So we do a lot on like coastal Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, that kind of a region. So that was originally where I was jumping into, her already established business. And as I started doing video, it definitely was just kind of like ask the photography clients that are already booked, like, hey, do you have a videographer? And I could get my foot in the door and start shooting that way. At the beginning, I wasn't doing much traveling, but always had a desire to do that, most definitely. I've always loved travel just in general, and the idea of having my work take me there was definitely appealing. So was always kind of like pushing towards that. And, in the early days, kind of just crossing my fingers, right? Like hoping for some magical bride to emerge out of like, Aspen, Colorado, and be like, hey, I randomly found you. Will you come shoot my wedding for $1 million, or whatever? So my first like real concrete step into destination work was, I guess a little under 3 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. And that was out in California, or Lake Tahoe. And I had done some traveling before that, but I felt like that was really where I felt like we walked away saying, all right, we now have we have work in our portfolio that's outside the Southeast. It's like distinctly a destination outside of what we're currently offering. In those early days, you're kind of like manipulating your footage, or not manipulating, but only showing the things from a wedding in North Georgia that maybe makes it seem like, I don't know, where is this ambiguous destination that we're working. So I guess like 2.5 years ago, maybe closer to 3 now, honestly, I don't remember, but was our first like step into building a portfolio outside of the Southeast, and loved it. That point, I think we were all in for travel price-wise. You mentioned pricing. I think for that event and a few of the others around that time period, including travel, we we're still under 10 grand, which, golly, people, you don't realize how much travel eats into your budget until you start really going and doing it, and you're, feeding yourself and your team well, and like all these things. But we definitely were like just trying to get our foot in the door in the destination world. And I guess just like building those relationships with planners that were outside of, and photographers too, outside of just the general Southeast. So pivoting back to my wife, she has a different mentality when it comes to work and travel. She prefers to be closer to home. We've got small kids, so she wants to be home, at like a decent hour on Sunday or even Saturday night. Whereas I'm a little more like inclined to not be as like beat down by the travel. I can go and do it, come back with not much rest, and feel like I can slide back into normal life. And I'm also like very filled up by the travel. I really enjoy new places, new people, that kind of deal. So I definitely like pursued that path forward, like very intentionally over the last 2 years, especially, where my branding is focused on that, everything down to the logo. I'm trying to kind of like instill in potential clients or vendors or whoever that's very much like what we're after.
Yeah, I really like that. And you mentioned something just about like, you get this wedding in Tahoe, you start like being ambiguously shooting to make it look like you're not in Georgia, like trying to, and you are filled up by these things. You said you kind of passed by it, but you were like, really started networking with the photographers and planners in a real sense, practically speaking. What did you do? Did you just start saying, oh, I'm going to start DMing all these photographers or planners or what? Like, do you remember kind of those first big breaks, what you did, and maybe some tips for the audience if they're like, man, I really want to get into some of this stuff? What are some tips you would say for people out there listening?
Yeah, good question. Since I graduated college, or probably multiple instances throughout college, I feel like I have never earned anything in my life that didn't come at the hands of, being helped by someone that I knew, right? Like, that comes in play here with weddings, certainly by photographers or planners recommending us. And that goes back, I guess, even further to my jobs coming out of college in the finance space. Like every job I ever had was because of someone I knew and networked with or whatever. So that's always just like come natural to me to just want to reach out and be, friendly and extroverted and build relationships with people. So in like concrete terms, I don't know that I was necessarily just like blind DMing people, but I think I always was like building not a list necessarily, but like familiarizing myself passively, maybe unintentionally even, but just knowing what I wanted to be doing. I was always drawn to the work of the people that were doing that, right? So the photographers that were shooting in those places, the planners that are based in those locations or producing work in those locations. Mm-hmm. And so I certainly was like actively following and engaging people on social media in some of those destinations, and then attending networking events like Engage or like the group that we're a part of. Just Chris Jesperson has said this before from Storybox, and it like really resonated with me as like he felt like his strength, or like what really was a huge asset for him, was like just being in the room with people. I remember him saying that, and that really clicking for me is feeling like I just wanted to be in the room and like hear conversations and be like in, have the opportunity to like put myself out there and just be in front of people. And I think that it was definitely like, it feels fast, like the last couple of years and like the work we've been able to do, like the projects we've gotten to be on and the people we've gotten to work with. It definitely feels fast, but at the same time, it feels slow when you're thinking back to like, how did you start building those relationships when it is kind of like abstract and all that. But I think I was just never shy about complimenting people that I thought were doing really great work. And, I'm not shy for sure about messaging people and saying like how much I love their work and would love to work together, that kind of a deal. One thing that I have like really leaned into the last year or two as I've gotten into this and like gotten very busy, and I've got 2 small kids, so I'm now like kind of stepping outside myself and looking at the business and our life, personal and professional, and like, what do I want that to look like? What do I like? What do I dislike? Because there are loads of things I dislike about this career in this industry. Like it's like any other thing. It's not perfect. But I've really stepped back and looked at everything and tried to like really nail down and focus in on what are the things that I do like and what are the things I don't like. And I'm really trying to lean into the things that I do like when it comes to building my business and the work that we're doing. And for me, the thing I like most about this job and this industry are the people. Like, and that's a blanket statement for me as a person across all areas of my life. Like, if I'm feeling like down and tired or bummed out, like I can go sit at the bar next to a random person and be very filled up by that, like a random conversation, with somebody. And I know everyone is certainly not like that. But the people that I've gotten to work with over the last few years and built relationships with have really been like my favorite part of this industry. And there's just some great people out there doing this work. And largely the industry is pretty isolating, right? You're at your home office or your office doing your weekly work, and your shooting is a very small percentage of, what we're doing. And I really love the in-person stuff. I really love the shooting. I really love the networking and all that. And so I have tried to lean into knowing that about myself and trying to pursue the people that I really enjoy working with, and trying to be intentional about those relationships and those events to kind of lean into that and work with these people that do fill us up and that we work well together with, that kind of a deal.
Yeah. That's good. No, I like all that. I took a couple of notes because I got a couple of questions. But before asking those questions, do you mind painting a little bit of a picture of maybe what your 2023, 2024 season kind of looks like? And when I say looks like, as much as you would like to share about what you're, where you're going, the kinds of events that you're doing, and any ballpark range of what you're, where you're at with your charging now, because, I think that that's important on being as candid as possible with things like that, to see where some of these risks can take you.
Yeah, sure. As far as number of events go, 2022 was a little crazy, like making things up still and saying yes to everything coming out of COVID. So it was like 30 plus events when it comes to networking things or some parties, and along with weddings and second shooting gigs as well. 2023 has certainly normalized, and we were way more intentional about what we were saying yes to and what we wanted our life to look like. So this year did between 15 and 20 events, throw in the second shooting things and engage and that kind of a deal. The commitments related to weddings was probably between 20 and 25. Next year, as far as weekends, next year, the number of events I'm aiming for is 12 to 15, 12 to 15 of our own weddings. And then I like to leave space to second shoot a handful of events. We can talk about that if you want, but for all the things that fill me up about this job, second shooting is essentially only checks the yes boxes and none of the no boxes. So I have intentionally, kind of carved out in my goals, space to hopefully work with some friends that I've built relationships with over the last few years. And I intentionally want to be doing a few of those projects throughout the year. I get a lot of joy out of those second shooting opportunities, and it just really fills my cup. And so I have created space for that. So between the two, between 15 and 20 events total, again, 10 to 15 likely for our business, not second shooting. And what we have been pricing ourselves at for the last honestly, for the last almost full year, we had raised our rates at mid to late 2022 and have been kind of locked into that for the time being. And what we're kind of calling our minimum is 2 days of coverage. So ideally, we'll be flexible on this if the situation calls for it, but we're being very upfront about coverage minimums, we want to only do 2 days of events. So we only want to do weddings where they're bringing us in for Friday night and Saturday at the very least. For personal reasons, we feel Friday is very important to be there. So if they're just not doing something, we'll be flexible. But we're calling our minimums the 2 days of coverage, Friday night and all day Saturday. And we're booking kind of a base rate for those 2 days of coverage at like mid 16, like 16.7 is what we're calling that. And then travel is on top of that, which usually lands us in the like 3 to 5K range extra. And then additional coverage can, of course, like come into play there. So what we communicate to people through email, like when they first reach out to set up calls or inquire about pricing, is we kind of just like tag something in our emails that like, hey, just so you know, clients are typically investing between 15 and 25K. And some have been greater than that as like multi-day events have become a thing. But for the most part, that's like a very fair like blanket or bucket to kind of like categorize our pricing.
It's incredible because when I started in 2007, I think there were maybe 1 or 2 companies that were pushing, the 20K range. And now it's just getting so much more normal, especially after COVID, with video being so important to people and them seeing the value of it. And obviously the talent has skyrocketed and the quality, it's not, Uncle Bob with a camera and a light in your face anymore. It's, your work is stunning and you definitely have skill. And that's rad. I love that you're charging what you're charging. I too am a minimum of 2 days of coverage, very similarly priced, very similarly values when it comes to being an extroverted person as well. And kind of feels like maybe we're long lost brothers or something, which is fine. But I'm obviously a little bit older, tiny bit more handsome, but that's neither here nor there. I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. But
yeah, certainly. Yeah. But you just want to make sure people know that we are both aware of all of these facts.
Yes. I need people to be aware of it, but also I don't want to come across, too cocky. So, I'm joking. My wife says that people don't get that I'm being sarcastic sometimes. So I need to clarify, little disclaimer. I'm kidding. Okay. So I do want to unpack some things because I think this is important. When you're talking about networking with planners, photographers, Chris, a good friend of ours over here at the podcast, he's like, who knows you, be the most known, be in the room. Like those are big things that he teaches that I think are really important. And he's been on the podcast and talked about like talking with Easton Events and saying, hey, you guys going to be in town on Tuesday? I'm going to be in town. And they're like, yeah, we are. And then he bought a plane ticket and brought them donuts or whatever he did. The story keeps getting bigger, but idea being he got in the room with people, got weddings with people, and now he's, Storybox Cinema traveling all over the place. And being in the room, I think so is something I want to unpack with you and mixing that almost in with risks that you're taking, calculated risk that you took, especially when you were getting going. You get this wedding that's in Tahoe, you start like trying to show that you're more luxurious, that you're more high end. What were some of those early risks that maybe you and your wife had to discuss to say, this is a good step for us? You said you've been to some Engage events or some other events. You're part of networking groups. Like, I know that you're probably heavily investing every year now, and it makes sense because you got the money coming in. But what were some of those, like, we're going to have to push these chips into the middle of the table because I think this is good. Little pieces of advice for people out there maybe thinking, well, shoot, I want to do that, but where do I, what would have saved you some stress, or what tips would you have for people thinking about that?
Yeah, man. Good question. I also kind of like putting a stamp on the end of the pricing conversation. Like we've been sitting on those rates, for about a year, and for people that are like around there, working towards there, or, dreams of being at that number, like I feel so blessed that we're able to like book weddings at that rate, and to be working with clients with those budgets and those caliber of events, like it's definitely not lost on us. Like the investment that our clients are making into video, and I feel like extremely thankful to like be doing the work that we're doing and serving the clients that we're serving. And as far as like the risk to kind of like get there, I think it's everyone's going to be different. I think I personally had a very easy path, if I'm going to be candid, into working in the video space with weddings and kind of like getting my foot in the door. Like those early years you're talking about in like 07 or whatever, like grinding it out and building your network. Like I started, in photography in a business that was already, 6 years established and doing like really nice work here in the Southeast. And then through that business, we were, finding, I'm like meeting other photographers just straight up through Anna and meeting planners that way. And, then I'm doing video and they're like, oh, I didn't know you did video. And I already know them, So like, I'm definitely not shy about how I didn't have those like very early years of no one even knows that I own a camera or that I'm doing anything. And I'm just like 6 followers on Instagram and like, staring at my feet, not sure like what to do next. Like I felt like I came in and already had an understanding through her business and through photography, like an understanding of the industry, and had been building relationships with planners through those early like 2 years of doing photography. So, my path is very different. And then at the same time, like in addition to that, like we were working together in a business that was doing well, like we were already like supporting ourselves through her business. And like I said, it's already in the wedding industry, so I'm already kind of like networking through that business. But we had no kids, we had no debt besides like one car and no student loans. Didn't own a house, anything like that. So timing was great. So someone coming in and they've got 2 kids and they're in full-time daycare and, their wife or husband isn't working and it's just them providing and they have a 9 to 5, like their ability to kind of step outside of their box and hustle and make things happen is probably going to be like much more stretched out timeline. And, but maybe their risk is lower if they've got a full-time job. But if you stepped away and you're full-time in this and whatever, you can certainly kind of throw it all in. For me, I just feel like my path was very different. Like I got to come in already kind of in the industry through photography. If I could do anything differently, it would just be like start networking and reaching out earlier. I think the other big blessing in joining this industry is the sector of video that I'm in. Like the timing was incredible. Like video back in 2016 was like really gaining popularity, but there were just still not a lot of people doing it. At least in the style that I really like craved to create and execute in. And so I felt like the door was kind of like wide open, and obviously so like people have rushed in. Like there are talented people like everywhere you look. Like it's insane some of the work you can see on Instagram and YouTube, whatever. So I think people heard the call and the industry is like filling out nicely, which is great. I just feel like I credit a lot of like our growth to the people around me and those people pulling me up, and the timing and just all of those things just felt like it was kind of a perfect cocktail recipe, whatever. for us to kind of come in. So I again feel very like lucky that we started when we did, I guess.
Are you looking for a better way to deliver your wedding films? Look no further. Our friends over at VidFlow provide the most flexible video delivery solution on the market. VidFlow is pay per use with no large upfront costs or commitment, and you can cancel at any time. VidFlow offers a premium viewing experience for all of your couples, accessible on mobile, tablet, desktop, as well as their very own suite of TV apps. Each project comes with 10 years of hosting and an experience for your couples that will blow them away. Head over to howtofilmweddings.com/vidflow, where you can save 20% off a yearly business membership by using promo code HTFW20. Stop delivering your films the old-fashioned way. Give your couples something to rave about by using VidFlow.
Well, you're a humble guy, and I appreciate you, your humility. And yes, we definitely want to make sure people know that when talking numbers specifically, that it's not, hey, how can we show what we're charging? Rather, show what's possible, and show that people, normal people that are working hard, are doing these kinds of weddings. And it's cool to see how far this industry has come. And I know that you also are like, I was lucky. You can tell when talking to somebody that they've put in the work. Yes, you used the lucky moments. Yes, you used, but lucky happens. Coincidences happen like most of the time when people have put themselves in a position to have the coincidence happen to them. And I know that you're doing a lot of in-person networking, which is really hard to do. You're traveling places where you're not getting paid, yet you're paying to be there so that you can be in the room with people, and be in the room with others. There's just something magical about it, especially in 2023, whenever we're all so confined to Zoom and in our homes and all this stuff about just, I know with like our mastermind retreat that we do once a year, we're in the room with other educators and all of our mastermind students. We're meeting them, we're giving them hugs, we're just having fun with them, we're partying, it's just a good time. And it's just like, wow, I like that person. Like I bonded with that person. I connected with that person on like a soul level. I'm going to stay in touch with them. I want to be their friend. I want to refer weddings to them, and I think that is such a huge aspect that people don't realize, just being in the room. And there's a million different ways to do that. Me, I've got two little girls, one's 13, one's 7. It's a little more difficult for me just to be like, I'm going to spend 20 weeks away from home. But like I can be in the room, maybe a little less times than somebody that doesn't have kids or doesn't have as many, personal responsibilities, but I can still carve out 2 to 3 times a year to be at said networking event. Or the thing you mentioned that I want to talk about next is like second shooting. And I've seen this a lot. We had Salt Rock Studios on a couple months ago, and she was just talking about how she second shoots a ton with like Storybox, and she second shoots with MK Films a lot, and she second shoots, and she's like getting those reps in a way that is an elevated event. Typically when you're second shooting for someone, they're doing the events that you want to do, or, maybe talk a little bit about like what criteria you have for like, how'd you get into second shooting and what has that done for you? You're in the room with other wedding filmmakers. You're in the room with higher end planners or photographers. How do you navigate being a second shooter, but not like promoting yourself? Just give me like a brain dump on like when and how you decide second shooting, and then we can dive deeper after that.
Yeah, and remind me too, I want to make sure I talk about our business structure here. And as we grew, this is one thing I definitely wanted to touch on and kind of skipped over it, but and how we employ editors in our process. Yeah. And so that was like a big piece of the financial growth aspect, was like wanting to build a team. Back to the like extroversion, how isolating the career can be at so many moments throughout the year. So that's a part I want to talk on. But for second shooting, I think right out of the gate, you hit it. at least in my experience, the events that I've gotten to go and second shoot are always events like you said, like they're the ones I'm kind of aiming for from a caliber perspective. They're with larger clients, bigger budgets, you know, cooler destinations, like all the things. It feels like it's an elevated experience. And so I think it's extremely crucial for anyone that's like interested in going in that path, like reaching out to people that they admire and want to learn from or want to help and serve. This is something I'm like very adamantly trying to like always trying to protect, and that is ensuring that you are never blurring the line between you being on site to help this person shoot their wedding and the self-promotion. And like it's a very hard thing because, you know, I'll go second shoot a wedding with someone and you know, hit it off with the groom or whatever, and he adds me on Instagram, right? And so now I'm connected to him, and then, you know, the wife has added me, and like we've just made the connection there or whatever, and that's a gray area. You know, you want to like avoid that, but you've just kind of like made a buddy, and it's not like you're chasing work. But like little things like that have happened, but I'm always like very conscious of like, it's more than just like, oh, what do you do? Like, oh, I'm a videographer, but I'm here with them. Like, you know, I think it's very important that we're always like, that wedding is that videographer's like, they've put the work in to get to that point, and they are, you know, leaning on you as a second shooter in a lot of ways for that particular event. But like, I'm always like very nervous to like never blur that line of like, you know, hey, ABC planner, you know, that I've followed for a decade and is like the reason I'm doing the weddings, you know, like your exposure jumps way up to like the people that you've always admired. But I think it's just important that like, if you're doing that, we're always like remaining diligent in your protection of like, no self-promotion, no, you know, so you're not walking away with anything other than like what that person paid you. Granted, the other things I do love about it, you are getting great experience. You're getting to see firsthand someone that you probably admire, not only from a style perspective, but how they operate, how they carry themselves, how they deal with clients. You're getting to see, you know, how they're operating, how they're doing, all those things. And so that's a cool experience. And I think for me, like what I have like really come to love with second shooting is, I mentioned it earlier, it kind of checks all the yes boxes for me and what I like about this job. Like I love to shoot and I love to be in front of people, and the camera is like, I've learned, is basically just my tool to get me in front of people. And like, ultimately, I just want to make people laugh and smile and like relax. And I want to serve people. I want to take things off people's plates, like make everyone around me feel like more at ease and more relaxed and have a better time. And those are not like goals I write down and I go out and do. Like that is the core of who I am and what fills my cup. And second shooting, like to me, if I'm doing my job well, like I'm doing basically those things. So I'm serving the photographer, serving the client, serving the planner, hopefully making everyone's job easier, helping them create better work for themselves, their portfolio, for their clients. And I get to do it like through this lens of, you know, getting to serve, getting to, you know, crack jokes, help people carry bags, like, you know, whatever it might be, just like little things throughout the weekend. I've just like loved it. I mean, if I could build a career off it, you know, I think I would. It's like, it's just so much fun. And I have met some like truly, truly amazing friends through doing that, like deep friendships, through the people now that I like have gotten to second shoot with over the last few years and like built relationships with. So, I mean, I would I wouldn't trade those opportunities for anything. And I feel that I have like done well to like what I can do to protect against the like self-promotion by being there. But, they talk about you to other people and share your name with other people. And so there are certainly benefits. You can't deny that you are kind of in the room, even if you're protecting against any of that promotion. You are just getting some exposure to something that you aren't previously getting exposure to. I think the other thing is also like seeing these larger scale weddings that maybe are like a step above where you are. If you're going to second shoot and get that exposure, you now get to like, when you get yours, right, it's not your first time seeing it. And you kind of understood like how it operates, how things are happening. And it's not your first time when you get the chance to just shoot it yourself.
Like, I love this idea. I think about Blake, who edits our podcast, has become one of my best friends and has second shot for me a lot at some of my bigger luxurious weddings, destination weddings. He's been to multiple countries with me. We've traveled the world. He's been to multiple states. We've been in mountains. We've been at oceans. We've had all these experiences together, and he runs his own Blake Polino Films company. And he is like a few years behind where I'm at, right? And it's perfect because he's amazing at shooting. He's amazing at driving, flying the drone. Like, he's licensed. He adds all these skill sets. And I'm not worried that he's going to be like trying to make a name for himself at my wedding. But in turn, over the years, with the level of trust that I've had with him, I've said, hey man, anything you shoot with me on this one, as long as it's not the couple, feel free to use it on your portfolio, or feel free to use it on, I'm giving him access to say, hey, you can use that drone footage. You can use those, whatever, or, it might be a couple. One wedding we did, it wasn't a portfolio piece for me, but man, it was for him. And I was like, I'm not going to put this couple on my website or anything. Just like, feel free to use it. Or, and we just built this relationship where now if I'm booked on something and I get another inquiry, he doesn't shoot like every single wedding with me. And so if I get another inquiry and I know that maybe the budget isn't, they say, hey, I've got a $10,000 budget instead of my starting $15K or whatever, I might send Blake a message and say, hey, Blake, are you available? They have a $10,000 budget. And he's freaking out. Like, yeah, I want that, because that's elevating his business. And I think that that's something that a lot of people in this society just are looking for, the short-term answer to their problem. Like, they need money now, so they're just going to try to sell something even though it's not the right way to sell it. Or they're not thinking chess, right? They're thinking checkers. It's like one step ahead instead of three. And being a second shooter not only builds relationships, it gets you in the room with people, and then good things are just going to happen if you're a good person. And I think that's a really important and awesome way to get in the room with people, get paid to get into the room with people. Because a lot of times people are just waiting. Well, if I book a good wedding with a good planner, then I'll be in the room with that planner. Or, and the people that I've seen that have really elevated their market quicker than others and more efficiently are the ones that are second shooting, getting in the room with people, or going to events, getting in the room with people, a part of online communities like our mastermind group, or like the networking group we're a part of. And those things add up. And I don't know, I really like anything you want to add on the second shooter thing, because I do want to ask you about, before we move on, talking about these editors, and then we'll have to wrap up because we'll run out of time. Mm-hmm. But anything else on the second shooting?
The note is absolutely, my business has been elevated by my second shooting, like 100%, no matter how you protect, again, the promotion piece, whatever it is, you are just being exposed to the next kind of like level up, and even just that exposure and knowledge at the baseline helps. But it all goes back to the networking piece. And you mentioned it, you've got your person and you send them work. Like, it's all because of the relationship that you built with that person. And so through those relationships, I feel I have definitely benefited tremendously from the work I've done through second shooting. So I'm extremely grateful for those opportunities, without a doubt.
Yeah, it's incredible to hear. And I know that, like, for me, by the time that I have built to where I'm at, I haven't done many second shooting gigs. Like I've second shot, but like I was afraid that I was going to like step on that person's toes, or I never thought I could ask, oh, hey, if you need a second shooter. And I know that would have elevated things. Just like being in like my first wedding where I know that was a 7-figure budget was the first time I'd ever been to a wedding that had a 7-figure budget. And I was scared as all get out. And I was just like, oh my gosh, look at these flowers.
And you did fine. And you did fine.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure I did.
Yeah. Okay.
I could have done I would have done better if I would have had more experience, of course. But it's just like I always felt
I could have done better. I could have done better at my wedding last week. Like I'm sure you did great.
Yeah, I did all right. It was
but yeah, but it is a daunting thing as you're like, wow, they put a lot of time, attention, care, and money behind this event, and this industry is you got it or you didn't, one shot kind of a deal. So there is that pressure, without a doubt.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been great.
I think we could talk about that for an hour, but there's two other things I want to hit on. And the first thing is you mentioned it, and I want to make sure we come back to it, is like, you said you were employing editors, giving yourself, with outsourcing. How does that work for you? What were you wanting to add on that topic?
Yeah. So 2-3 years ago, if I had continued to edit all of my own projects on my own and, shoot, edit, do all the things like everyone's doing, if I had just continued on that path, doing the editing myself, I would 100% not be in this industry anymore. Mm-hmm. I mean, I need to be around people too much and need to be communicating for my own personal well-being, like my mental health. I need to be around people. I need to be solving problems with other people. Like I need and crave that. And, a wedding, I don't know if I'm slow or fast here, but I mean, a wedding would be 50 hours of editing in my basement alone, my cold, damp, dark basement. Mm-hmm. Every wedding. And as I'm growing, I'm shooting more, and, I'm wanting to put more time into the edits and whatever. And I just was getting to a place where that was too much of a weight. Even though like I creatively, especially when I would reach the end, like that final maybe 10 or 15%, when I really feel like I'm happy with structure, flow, whatever, and I'm like fine tuning and coloring, like I do get a lot of like creative satisfaction in an edit, and I'm still doing a little bit of stuff for social media and the occasional one-off thing for clients, but I just got to the place where I could not deny it anymore, that like, I love this job, but I need to train an editor to come in and, in my style, whatever, like I need someone to come in and, then it's like scratching a bunch of itches, right? It's like I'm able to outsource the editing so someone else is able to do it, freeing me up to do more marketing, sales, networking, whatever it might be, or also like spend time with my family. And then I'm building a team. Like I'm getting to automatically introduce more communication, more team building opportunities, more relationship building, whatever, into the business. And my like journey into entrepreneurship, I have always wanted to like grow the business financially, almost not entirely, but like a huge majority of the reason behind that is like I do want to build some independence and wealth for my family and be able to provide financially, like these types of things. But like I want to build a business that employs people. Like I want to create a place where people can come and work and love their job and love being there. And because in my previous finance job, I worked in an office at one point for years that was that. Like it was a place I loved going to. I had highs and lows, of course, but like I knew I wanted to create that. And so as I grew financially and I was beginning to raise rates and starting to do more, like I knew I was doing that almost entirely with the mindset of like, I want to keep growing and bringing more in so I can put more out, like so I can pay other people and build that team environment. So now we have 3 people that we lean on heavily in an ongoing way, depending on the event, the scale of the event, what the deliverables are. There are 3 people that, and one of them is my full-time second shooter as well, and best friend since college, which is also great. But those 3 people are serving as editors in the business, and I love it. I mean, honestly, need a 4th for like social things, and that's something I'm considering. We're looking into office space right now in town, and want to have at least 2, maybe 3 people in there. I just, from a structure of the business standpoint, and this is kind of the point I think I wanted to like drive home, is that like everyone's goals are different. You may want to edit yourself, shoot yourself, don't even bring a second shooter. You just want to like be the person and just save a ton of money to pursue like financial independence at an early age or whatever it might be. I am pursuing the building of a team 100%. And so a team of editors right now is very much that. We do some commercial work as well. So shooters on that side, or even weddings, that's a small piece as well. But that is like a big goal in our business, is that like team structure and wanting to build more of like a sustainable business and less of like a single member LLC. Not that these people are employees, we're all contractors, but that's like a core goal that I kind of filter through my business decision making, is like coming through that, and making sure that everything we're doing is kind of like always aligning with that when it comes to growth and what we're booking and our rates that we're booking. I just like don't make money if I am paying editors like $3,500, like if I'm booking at my old rates, so like as I'm growing, the margins are going down, but I'm building the business that I am intentionally setting out to build. So that's something I definitely want to.
Yeah, I really like that.
And I also think in weddings, editors is like a great thing. It's like because it is a very stylistic type of industry, and you kind of come up with your own voice, you feel like, in your editing and storytelling and that kind of a deal. But I guess I'm here to say, like, if you find a talented editor, like, you can train and teach that, and then in all reality, like, bringing in these people, they're better at their skill than I am. And that's the other thing I love, is like lifting up people to do the work that they're better at. Like the first guy I brought in, who's moved on now, but he was with me for a while, and I say, like, I can't be alone in my basement for 50 hours a week editing a wedding, and he says, can I please like be alone in my basement for 50 hours editing a wedding? You're like, do you have any work for me? So like it brought me a lot of joy to like have a person on board that is like that, that I get to let them do what they love, and I'm free to do more of the things in the business I love.
I really like that. I think a lot of people just look and listen to what other people are doing and say, oh, well, that's what I should do. That's how I should do it. And intentionality seems very important to you. And, but you've been talking about like filling your cup. And I think that I've been on a journey the last few years of like really leaning into what I love and not caring if Daniel loves it. I love it. It's like, that's what I want to be doing. I don't care if people are mad at me that I haven't edited a wedding since 2019. I hate editing weddings. I love being the creative director. I love seeing the work come together and giving my ideas and having my team, put the edits together. And I get filled up by being in the room with people, and I get filled up by doing this podcast and talking to other people and ideas and, big picture. And That's me. And maybe that's not you out there listening, but what I'm seeing with Daniel, what I'm seeing with people that I'm finding that are having true success and fulfillment in their cup, is they're leaning into the intentional thing they want to be doing, and they're not just doing what everyone else is doing because that person is being successful. True success, you get to define it. And if success to you looks like getting to go to your kid's ball game every time, great. Time freedom is a success marker for you. Or if it's, being Scrooge McDuck and having piles of cash to swim through, that's success. Great. Whatever, success might be winning a Filmmaker of the Year award. It might be, but I think that just the awareness, it's fun to see you, Daniel, talk about like your awareness of who you are, like, and what fills you up. And the more you know that, the more you can lean into that. And I think a lot of us are just so busy doing all the things for everybody else that we forget to take a step back and say, well, what checks my boxes? What do I like doing? What do why am I doing this? Like, because you will quit, you will burn out if there's no real intention behind what you do. Yeah,
I agree. And I'm still chasing and figuring that stuff out too. I don't certainly have it all nailed down. But I have, like you said, I have leaned into the things at least that I do know that are a baseline for me. So, it's been a good run. I have really enjoyed the career. I have enjoyed this industry. The people are amazing. It's been a great last couple of years, and very excited. Sorry, getting more packages.
Dude, you just order so much stuff. This is what happens when you get into luxury weddings. You can just order stuff. That's the perks.
There is some B&H tape on that package, so
yeah, it is. All right, we're
what
running.
It is.
New cameras are always coming to my front doorstep. It's part of my life. Imagine running a YouTube channel that like can do reviews for these cameras and then trying to justify not buying every one of them. That's where I'm at right now.
It's an impossible job. It's an impossible job.
Somebody has to do it. But, I really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy. If people want to follow along or say hey to you, connect with you, what's the best way for people to find you?
Yeah, my home address is just Instagram, I guess, is the best way. At Daniel Shackleford, very easy, and that's about the only platform we operate on, and hopefully no others emerge.
That would be great.
I'm a one platform man.
That would be great. Yes, definitely check out shacklefordfilms.com and follow Daniel over on Instagram. Any parting words, anything that you're like, man, I didn't say that? Any final words of wisdom before we sign off for the day, Daniel? If not, it's totally fine.
John confirmed before we started recording that he can bench press 225 pounds.
That is true.
I thought that was going to come out, but it didn't.
Well,
and I'm just going to deal with that the rest of the day, I guess.
Okay. I'm gonna be honest. I haven't tried to bench that much in a while. I can't do it.
It's like when you're a murderer, you kill one person, like you're a murderer. Like you benched 225. Like you did it.
I did.
You're that guy.
I did not
now.
murder anyone.
Yeah.
If you're listening, Apple or Spotify.
Oh yeah.
Podcast. Yeah. Yeah. We're gonna get an explicit rating. No. Seriously, good meeting you. Good hanging out. Everyone go follow Daniel. Go send him a message and tell him he's awesome. Check out his work. And thanks for being here. All right. Well, thank you, Daniel, for being part of the How to Film Weddings podcast. Our community definitely is excited to connect with you and watch your films, find you on social media. If you're out there and you're still here listening, I want to encourage you to head over to howtofilmweddings.com. We have a ton of resources for you as a wedding filmmaker, from information about our mastermind course or our course itself, digital templates, freebies, our YouTube channel. Everything is linked right there at howtofilmweddings.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, we'll see you.
Attention wedding filmmakers. The best resource for licensing music for your wedding films is MusicBed. I have been exclusively using MusicBed for about 8 years, and our films are better because of it. I hear a lot from our couples that reach out to us that our wedding films feel different, that the music isn't cheesy. MusicBed has a roster of incredibly talented musicians, bands, and composers who pour their hearts into their work, and you can hear the difference. Find the perfect song with MusicBed's intuitive search features like genre, mood, beats per minute, and my favorite, key. Head over to howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed to learn more and take your films to the next level. Use promo code HTFW23 at checkout to receive 1 month free with the purchase of an annual subscription. That's howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed.